Welcome back to the Ram Truck Workshop here at the Rebuilding Exchange. This guy is Blake Sloane. He is the Director of Production here at the Rebuilding Exchange. You brought in a project today that you actually teach your students.
Yeah, we have classes about once a week to do this. We're going to be making a very simple bench.
The supply list for this class is simple. 2.5-inch wood screws, wood glue, at least one drill, but having two will speed things along, 2 clamps, a saw, and finally, the wood.
We've got a few pieces of wood over here.
Now this is all salvaged wood from the Rebuilding Exchange, right?
Everything's reclaimed. All of it comes from local Chicago buildings.
Oh,
I
yeah.
kind of like this piece because it's got that funky old paint on it and it's got a few holes in it. This was something else and it's going to be something again, and you want to see what it was.
Well, let's get started.
I think this piece is a little bit big for a bench top, so maybe we'll cut it down. I'm not even going to measure it. I'm just going to say I want my bench about yay big. So this is a nice flat piece. I'm just going to trim some of the funkiness away. And I've got my glasses on, you got your glasses on, so we should be good. Just going to go slow and steady.
So that's about a 2-person bench right there.
Yeah, so that'll be a love seat, and me and you can sit on that later. So that's our top. Now we need 2 legs.
Blake makes an initial cut to square off the ends of this piece, and then measures the first leg at 17 inches.
18 inches is kind of our standard seat height, bench height. And since we got about 1.5 inches thickness for the top, I'm going to subtract that from the leg.
All right, Blake, we have our top, we have our legs. What's the next step?
All right, so the only other thing we're going to need are a couple corner blocks, and they're sort of going to support our tops and the legs. So we'll just cut all these at the same time. And these I don't really need to mark. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. And we are cutting these at a 45-degree angle, so I'm going to have to adjust this saw. All right, so I cut one at 45. I'm just going to flip the piece and cut at 45 again, and that's going to be my corner block.
Once we have 4 corner support blocks, we can start the assembly.
So we're going to build this bench upside down, and I'm going to put my nice top facing down on the bench. And the sides are just going to sit right on our board like this.
Okay.
And I like to make them flush with the sides, but it's really up to you. If you want to decide to set it in a few inches because you like that look, as long as you don't go so far that you've created a teeter-totter. So ultimately, we're going to throw a couple corner blocks here and here to hold this all together. But it's really tricky to get all these screws going and try to balance this side. So that's where these 2 clamps, and any hardware store is going to sell a couple clamps like this. All right, so that looks pretty good. So we're going to throw a corner block on either side.
Blake applies wood glue to both sides of the corner blocks. These blocks are doing a lot of support work, so the glue does a big job in conjunction with the screws. We're using a countersink bit to drill 2 pilot holes in each block. This technique allows the screw head to set below the surface of the wood.
So I kind of like to work with the bench like this, kind of hugging the bench, putting pressure against it. And I'm going to drill right into the wood like this. I want to go 90 degrees to the corner block into the wood at an angle. So you can see how I cut that nice little countersink there.
Yep.
And I'm going to attach this screw right away. I don't want to drill all 4 pilot holes, then accidentally bump this and everything gets out of alignment.
Sure.
So again, I'm using nice light squeezes to get this in here. And that pulls everything nice and snug.
We put 2 screws into all 4 blocks on both sides of the bench, and we're almost there.
So I just want to do a couple screws through the top. That's really going to hold this all together.
Okay.
I don't really trust the corner blocks alone.
Because these screws will be visible, Blake is actually going to measure these. We mark 3/4 of an inch from the ends, countersink 4 pilot holes, drill the last 4 screws, and we have a DIY bench made out of reclaimed wood. It's a little crude perhaps, but it's a perfect fit for a garden or a deck. You could use nicer wood, sand it down, stain it, add some cushions, but the steps are still the same. It's easy, we spent less than an hour, and it cost just $15.